Welcome to this session on observability that will change the way you work. My name is Sohan Maheshwar. I'm an evangelist with AWS, and I'm so glad to be joined by Dave Anderson, who is a digital evangelist at Dynatrace. Dave, how's it going?
Good, Sohan. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So, Dave, today we're here to talk about observability. I hear all the cool kids are doing this, and I hear so much about it. Let's start with what exactly is observability?
Observability is the new cool term, isn't it? It's what everyone seems to be using these days. It's formerly known as monitoring, application monitoring, infrastructure monitoring. But I guess naturally, as these applications have expanded to cloud environments and various different types of apps that can't be instrumented by agents, you get this sense of this observability, which is getting a sense of everything you're running in your digital ecosystem, how it's running, how is it performing, where are the issues, how do we solve them, how do we keep these systems running, 24 by 7.
And you mentioned something interesting there, Dave, which is monitoring, and people have been talking about monitoring for a long time. So, is there any difference between what observability is and what monitoring is?
Yeah, I think so. I've been fortunate enough to be at Dynatrace for about 5 or 6 years now, and I've seen the transition from, even the company itself. So Dynatrace originally started out as a leader in application monitoring, and really it was sort of more about kind of taking a deep dive into the application. So this was back in the day, kind of almost a little bit pre-cloud, where, we had very specific mission control applications, and you would use agents to dive into that application code and understand everything that was running. It was a very manual process to instrument all of that. One of the things that Dynatrace did is they recognized that obviously with the advent of the cloud and the rise of people like AWS, that these sort of ways in which you work would be redundant in the future because you wouldn't be able to control, you wouldn't be able to instrument these applications in a cloud environment across containers and microservices. So really observability was sort of founded in that regard. And I think, Dynatrace has been at the forefront of that for a long period of time without kind of really recognizing that that was the new term that was going to be called. It was a very different approach where, sort of a single agent architecture gets deployed onto host environments, and then it helps you get a sense of everything that's running all the way up your technology stack, all the applications, the services, the dependencies, up to user experiences, and all the way down into your infrastructure, how all of that is connected in together and does that in an automated way. So that's really kind of, we say it's observability with AI and automation, which sort of provides that layer of like, ease of use for people so they don't have to go worrying about how everything's connected.
Interesting, very interesting. So, as someone who hasn't done too much work in monitoring or observability, me,
Lucky
can you
you.
tell me how? Yeah, no, but I hear everyone talk so much about it, so I was so keen on
Yeah.
this interview. But can you tell me a bit about how AI and machine learning is playing a big role in this? Because we are hearing about how AI and ML is big in everything, right? And how it's changing
Yep.
how we operate and stuff like that. So, how is it playing a key role in observability?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think, one of the fundamental things about AI, and I'm about to launch a podcast soon talking to AI thought leaders. And one of the premises of AI was that it was going to replace the need for humans to do mundane manual work. So it could crunch big data sets that we don't necessarily have the time, patience, or capabilities to actually go and analyze. And I guess, from an observability perspective, that's like just pure perfect use case for an AI where you have a very deterministic AI that can crunch. We've got customer environments that have billions, if not trillions, and I think our Austrian R&D team told me a number that I don't think really is a real number. They said something like a cajillion, and I don't know if they were joking or not. But it's numbers that are beyond human scale, so you can't possibly keep up with the way in which these dynamic cloud environments, how quickly they change. You have development teams that are spread across the globe. They're spinning up new services continually, being able to instrument this, understand how it's all working. And it's really now at the point where it's beyond human capability. And you do need an AI to really be able to sense all the changes that are occurring, automatically baseline everything that's happening, but then also it's serving up information. So the way we do it is an explainable AI that then sort of understands it's all running, but then gives the humans the answers that they need to go and do something about. Like, is there a root cause issue in application X because of a microservice failure, or you have a response time degradation called by a recently deployed service that you've deployed. Now, these are things that you would never normally be able to figure out yourself, and teams would spend days, weeks trying to figure it out. And what it does through this automation and AI is because it's doing all this data crunching, it frees up the people that were sitting there before in war rooms staring at dashboards going, squiggly line went up, squiggly line went down. What does that mean? What should I do? And just tells you need to go and restart this service. You need to spin up more memory. You need to do this. You need to change that SQL statement. So it's giving you the precise answers to go and do something, which means you now have more time to actually be a bit more valuable. Instead of kind of reactively problem solving all these issues that are occurring, you can be a bit more proactive and do things that actually make a difference to a business. And I think that's the big transition, really, from like application monitoring teams to observability teams, where the AI and the automation is freeing people up to actually do more useful things with their time and more enjoyable things. Because I don't think anyone, every time I interview customers and I talk to them about it, they don't like sitting in a war room and having, the CEO or the CTO asking why their applications are down, why are there issues, why can't people log in? No one wants that. And they're the throat that's getting choked. And so, I think by having a confidence of an AI to be able to prevent these problems from occurring, these people have a better work-life balance and a more enjoyable job, which is something that we're very proud of helping, teams in various organizations around the world.
That's so interesting. And honestly, Dave, and I know I'm going off a bit of a tangent, but most of our technology and progress in terms of like human invention has been to automate a lot of these mundane tasks, from the industrial revolution to a lot of the AI things that are happening today. And I think people, a lot of it in the media is portrayed as AI is going to take over your job or AI will take over the world, but it's not that. It's just helping, it's freeing up, it's taking away these mundane tasks to free up your time to do other cool stuff.
Yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes I would like some of my role to be automated by an AI and take over. But no, it's a question I often ask as well, because we don't know where it's going. And it's obviously prime. Like, you think about, manufacturing, that's probably a very specific use case that has had a lot of AI come in and automate their particular work. But, I can't think, and I don't think that people working on a factory floor building a car actually ever really enjoyed it. And maybe people reskill, and that's going to be the challenge naturally, is as any technology develops, whether it's AI or automation, we're constantly going to have reskilling, redevelopment, redeployment, and people will have to change and they'll have to learn, and there will be job losses in certain industries, but there'll be gains in other industries. And I guess, I think it's not being pessimistic, but I think, one of the things that we're doing at Dynatrace, just specifically with that, is we give people the opportunity to actually be a little bit more valuable with the time that they spend and what they do, which is a really good thing. And I don't think anyone in IT ever has said, I don't have enough to do. I think everyone has got more than enough to do. The to-do list is longer than ever, because whilst this AI was supposed to come in and solve all these problems for us, we are all working longer than we've ever worked before. So much for this 30 hours a week and spending all this time with our kids. We're now doing 60, 80 hours a week and still trying to spend time with the kids. And so, yeah, look, I don't think it's coming to take people's jobs. I do think, though, that there'll definitely be a moment where we will have to redevelop and reskill and think about different industries and things like that. And it's just really about how society learns and, maybe eventually how we distribute the wealth to make sure everyone's comfortable when the AI does really get too developed. But that's a topic for another time, maybe 30 years down the track, where we really get these AIs that are actually as smart as humans. That'll be an interesting time indeed.
We can probably talk about that at EMEA Summit 2048 or something. There's still time.
That sounds like it might come sooner than 2048. As this thought leader I am talking to, he reckons within the next 2 decades we're going to have an AI that's smarter than humans, and we'll need to make sure that we can contain it. But again, I don't want to get pessimistic on this. So yeah, EMEA Summit 2030 might be a good opportunity.
On that note, Dave, so and we will, I'd love to see a demo of Dynatrace in action, but before that I want to ask you a question. So there's so much talk about digital transformation, and especially with the pandemic and businesses were forced to adopt it. It fast forwarded something that would have probably already, it would have happened anyway. How does something like observability and AI and observability form into, digital transformation and help
Yeah.
a business? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, it's geez, like with taking my sort of my corporate vendor hat off for a second. I literally have my hat on because I haven't had a haircut. But and sorry to all the Yankees fans. But I always offend Yankees supporters by wearing my Red
Hey,
Sox
any
hat. Anyway,
sports hat you wear, you will offend like the
I'm
some fan somewhere.
gonna guarantee. Yeah, exactly.
So it's
exactly. So yeah, and I think digital transformation. I mean, yeah, look, last year was a perfect example of where a lot of people. I mean, everyone was undergoing transformation, right? If you weren't, you're not in existence anymore. And your competitors will be doing it. They'll leverage AI and automation. They keep going faster. It keeps happening. So I think last year, what it taught us to do was that digital transformation just had to happen, and it had to happen really, really quickly. Because it wasn't just, oh, look, we need to transition to Zoom and we need to transition to Teams or Chime or any of the cloud, and a lot of the companies had already deployed the cloud environment. So they were already pretty good and could scale. But, it was things like, being able to sign legal agreements. And there were even examples of people that needed to send out physical checks, or government departments that needed to process all of their applications for unemployment benefits, as an example, without actually going to a physical office. We work with a number of banks that said every one of the branches had to close, which means all of their online services. I mean, everyone now is an online business. We have an e-commerce customer who they had to turn their stores into distribution centers. And the only way for them to transact is online. So everyone basically became an app, and that was the only way that they could transact if they were going to survive. And so obviously scale was really critical. And I guess, one of the things that when I went around, I actually asked the question of a lot of people, because when this pandemic happened, I started asking customers, and that's what I do for my job. And I said, what is going on in your organization at the moment? How can we help? Tell me about what's happening. And they basically said, business as usual, closures of physical stores, but we have to scale larger than we've ever scaled before. We've got to provision more hosts as quickly as we possibly can. We've got to scale these applications. We've got to fine tune. Sometimes they've got to deploy new services, like you take government departments that now needed to be concerned about, different types of applications that people would be trying to process or trying to navigate. They're trying to learn more about what's happening in the pandemic, these sort of things, right? So one of the things that, and sorry for the long answer, but the thing that Dynatrace does is we sit at the core of all that. So we sit right at the heart of their digital transformation to understand everything that's moving. I sort of liken it to, I'm trying to do home automation, and it's a complete nightmare, and it's a mix of open source and all sorts of different things. But what Dynatrace is doing is giving you this central view of all of your ecosystem, all your hosts, your infrastructure, your services, your processes, your apps, your users, and then make decisions based on those. And you can understand, is the digital transformation working, and give people confidence, because what happened in the pandemic is everyone had to go faster than they've ever gone before. If they were putting a project off that was supposed to take 9 months, all of a sudden it became 3 days. And it was like, I don't care. You have to go faster. You're just going to have to do it. And so one of the things that we're really proud of in working with a number of our customers is allowing people to have the confidence to go faster. So when they make these deployments, when they make these changes, they can check and go, is everything okay? Did I break anything as part of my deployments? And it's like, no, everything's good. We can continue to go faster. So that's one of the things that we've been, amongst a pretty ordinary time in human history. We've been very proud as a company to work with government departments and lots of service providers that are basically, helping people transform during the pandemic.
Nice.
That's very long answer. I'm sorry.
No,
I get very passionate about the topic.
No, I love the detail in the answer. But Dave, our viewers love seeing code and how a product actually works. So let's dive straight into it. You'll have to share your screen. And again, I haven't seen Dynatrace in action, so I'll probably ask you really silly questions about what does that squiggly line do, or what does this color do.
Let's talk about squiggly lines. So a little caveat for everyone as I do this demo. I'm actually I'm in marketing, so I'm not a technical evangelist. I'm a digital evangelist, which means my bread and butter originally was in marketing and not so much in the technical code. But I've taught myself how to use it, and that's one of the things with Dynatrace is we've made it very, very simple to use. That anyone basically can get started and understand what's running. So if you're seeing my screen at the moment, this is anyone can have any type of dashboard overview. We always sort of start there because you've got to start with something. So what you're looking at here is, as we were sort of saying, Dynatrace is an observability platform, which means to get started, there are numerous different ways, but the most common way is to deploy the one agent. We have one agent that gets deployed across onto a host, and you restart that host no matter what you're running, and then it will automatically start to understand everything. So it starts to pick up all of the applications that are running on that host, then how all the services and dependencies are all basically mapped together, and then starts to also profile all the users as they come through as well, all the way down to your infrastructure. So it's giving you that full stack view. So I'm going to show you that in a second, but before I do that, I just wanted to give you a sense of what are the sort of the metrics that you're pulling out. It's it's almost an evil way to start because it's actually not really what this platform's all about, but because it does just look like more dashboards. But you can see here, I'm running and I'm looking at, from this executive overview, 24 applications here. Green, yellow, red. Green's all good. All my applications are okay. I've got some infrastructure metrics here as well, and everything's looking pretty good there at a host level and a service level. I then even have some networking metrics pulling in. I have VMs all the way through to the number of users that I have coming through. And I'll go through some of the synthetics and session replay and all these other things as well. So everything down to databases and sort of, even my AWS environment's pulled in here, containers, etc. So this is just giving you this 30,000 foot view of everything looks okay at the moment. I have no problems. Everything is green. Life's pretty sweet. So that's kind of an end state once you've deployed. Now, if I show you maybe one of the ways in which we kind of like to demo this is to give people an understanding of so this is what we call the Smartscape. And the Smartscape is that view that helps you see, it's your full topology. So it's what you're running, where you're running, and how it's interconnected. So I have 24 applications that have been instrumented. So what I can do at the moment is, I have 278 hosts that have been instrumented. I am blessed with Australian internet connection too, I should mention that. So it's a little slower than most. But sort of clicking on any of my hosts, I then get this view, and you can kind of see now that everything down to my data center. I really should have picked one that was an AWS one. Most of our stuff's running in AWS, I should mention that. And then 278 hosts sort of instrumented. I've just picked this one particular Linux host, and it can tell me exactly then all the processes that are running and all the services. So it's giving you that topology view. And what it can do after that is that it automatically then starts to baseline everything. And it's so hard for me to do the demo and not kind of dive into look, it's going right into SQL statements, it's going into network processes, it's going into all of the application code. And so what I'm showing you at the moment is actually pretty simple view. But if I sort of pan back, what I would prefer to do, and where a lot of our customers spend more of their time is, and also the other really important thing, Soham, which I haven't explained, and every time I do these weekly demos, I have to explain it to everyone. Everything I'm showing so far is automatically done out of the box. So there is no dashboarding, no configurations, no threshold setting. Everything is basically deploy the host, and then 2-3 minutes later, you're going to get a view of everything that you've got running, and it'll automatically start profiling and start baselining. And my fun part is when people come back and say, I'm getting problems that we never knew that we had. And one customer said to me, what did he say? We don't go looking for problems anymore. Problems come looking for us. So that's another fun one. So then this is the AI engine, and we call the AI engine Davis. And what the AI engine does is, now that it's auto-profiling everything and understanding what normal is, and obviously the longer it's running, the more it can figure out normal. And normal could be Friday's not normal compared to Monday. So it starts to learn behaviors, right? And then once it does that, it can start to work out where the anomalies are occurring, where are the issues that we need to take care of. Importantly, because it's looking at this across a full stack, and I just clicked a particular problem there, for fun, and this, if people are looking on this on their phone, I get really dyslexic when I do this. I think that's 27 trillion. No, that's billion. 27 billion, 586,796,160 dependencies were analyzed to get this particular issue. It's analyzed 2 applications, 10 services, no infrastructure impacted. It tells me the business impact, so how many users have been impacted by this, which means I also want to come back to a really important story with one of our customers, Vitality, that used that data of understanding users impacted by a failed service transaction, and using both AWS and Dynatrace, were able to proactively reach out to customers to say, hey, we noticed that there was a service failure with your application request, which is a really cool use case. It's 2 applications that were impacted as part of this, and then it's giving me a precise root cause. So the precise root cause, oh, my Chrome is slow as anything, I think, because I'm running so much software. There we go. So there we go. It's catching up on me. But the precise root cause is within the database, and then the data, and it's I don't know which database that is. I can't see from here. But there's a database issue, and I can see that it's caused a response time degradation, and there are issues there. Now, normally with these sort of things, you get all these alerts from like the database team would be getting alerts. There'd be response time degradations, there'd be all sorts of different alerts going off. And then you got to sit there and go, what was the issue? How do we solve that issue? And how many, obviously this is impacting a customer. Now I can click in. I know this is an Oracle database. It shows me the time period in which this is occurring. And then when my Chrome catches up, I can scroll down. My computer is running awfully slow. I'll eventually, once Chrome catches up, which I'm asking it to do. Here we go.
The recording and the live streaming is fairly, that we're doing right now is fairly system intensive. So
yeah. Oh, I should have used my these new Mac Minis are a wonder. I should have used that instead of my MacBook. But anyway, rather than go down, if you guys can just dream up what you'd possibly be seeing right now, is I can actually go right down into the SQL statement that's causing the issue. So I know it's essentially a needle in a haystack. So what has caused that particular problem? But unfortunately, I'm getting hammered at the moment. There we go. Oh, it's nearly done it. So there you can see that there's a response time here, and I can actually go right into that particular request that caused the issue. And then you obviously pass that on to the development team in order to have that resolved and solve the issue. And so I am like literally scratching the surface of the capabilities of showing what it's capable of doing. I'm just going to see if it's going to be any more responsive, or if we should pause and come back to it, because I've really, what the other things that I wanted to be able to show is be able to go right into like, okay, let's have a look. We pull in all the AWS metrics as part of this as well. So right into all the CloudWatch metrics that are shared. We look at everything that's basically running at the host level and in the cloud environments. We pull that all in automatically as well. And then the other part that I get really excited about, because I'm in marketing, is I can see all my user sessions as well. And so I can see every click, every tap, every swipe that a user makes, every login that they make, everything that they do as part of that application. So that's where observability teams actually start to become a little more valuable, in terms of like, they're not just monitoring infrastructure and applications anymore. These people are actually like, how much revenue are we making out of this application? How many logins are we having? How many issues are we having with people trying to log into that application? And then the other really fun use case, which I'm definitely probably not going to be able to show, not because it won't work, or maybe it won't. Maybe my browser's caught up now. But I can see this particular user is in this application across 3 different applications, as you normally would. I can actually click on that particular user session. It also auto profiles and gives a user experience. Is it a good user experience? Is it a bad user experience? Therefore, anyone that was bad, what should I focus on? How do I know to go and resolve it? It's great for support desk situations where it's like, I've been trying to log in now 20 times. And, I promise you, actually one customer, this is the best one. Who was the customer? It was a leading, they provide, gosh, why can't I remember them? They provide a lot of the university curriculum, and they had their students saying that they had submitted their papers, and they were saying, oh no, I couldn't get in because the application had crashed. and they were able to go into the support desk and go, no, you have not logged in at all. Here's your user session, and you can actually see it. So we're ruining many students' ability to lie about what they've been up to. But you can see this particular user, what they did, where they went, the browser they're on, through to all of the requests that they made, the Apdex rating, which is the user experience rating. And the really cool thing also is you can actually, let's see if this works. I can replay the session. We call this session replay. And so, if there is a particular user session that failed, and so this is working right now, I haven't actually done anything. It's replicating the session. It's not movie recording it. It's taking all of the code and basically replaying it so that you can see that particular session. Someone comes into the support desk and goes, I tried paying, I wasn't able to pay. I don't know what happened. They can obviously use our session replay to replay the session and go, I can see exactly what happens. And the good thing also is we mask most of the credit card details and all of the privacy and fully GDPR compliant. So, my gosh. So, and it was, I don't know how long you wanted to go through on this demo, but with my little browser lag, I've managed to hit a few things. And I talk too much. I'm fully aware of that.
No, that was super impressive, though. I'm very impressed with the demo. Maybe let's talk about some of the AWS specific metrics as well.
Yeah, so we can pull in all of the AWS environment as well. I think we covered just about all of the AWS CloudWatch metrics and components and pull that all in. It automatically does it as well. We're in the AWS marketplace as well, so for easy deployment that way. And one of the first to support that. And so basically, through what we don't pick up through the agent, also, a lot of people also ask us, do you see Lambda functions as well? Yeah, we do. So we see everything. And once you're deployed on that host environment, we'll be able to see pretty much everything that's running in that environment, where it's running. And then we're even pulling in like a lot of the properties and tags that you configure within AWS as well, which means you can then auto configure and sort of tag your dashboard configurations, but also alerting and rules of like where things can go. And the other part, obviously, that's really important is, as these environments get so big and you've got so many different development teams, you can use Dynatrace to then create what we call management zones. And management zones, I don't think I can demo the management zones. I don't know. Can I? Let's have a look. Yeah, it looks like I can. So in here, I can then create like different kind of configurations, and this is great for both security but also just ease of use in terms of like I want to be able to see only a certain number of applications, or I only want certain configurations, certain tags. So yeah, you can basically configure any of those. So it just makes it really easy for development teams who are working and easily be able to share all of this. What else? So AWS is automatically supported in one of our first that we've been running. And you can see, look, I'm not going to go into all of this, but we're pulling in everything into individual applications. Actually, the really cool view is if I go to, so there's all the different databases that are supported. So anything basically that you're running across all your environments, technologies is a cool view. And I'm not doing that just because I'm in marketing, but it gives you kind of a bit of a landscape of everything that you have running and that you need to view, and all the different technologies. So, Amazon API Gateway as an example, notification services, Elastic Container Services, all these sort of things. So you get this kind of really cool view of everything that you have running. And then, what else is there?
Yeah, this is really cool and impressive, Dave. Very cool. We're almost out of time, Dave. So I have one final question. So a lot of our viewers, I'm sure, are very excited after seeing the demo. How can someone get started? And let's keep the answer brief because we're almost out of time.
Yes, very good question. Get started is basically go to the Dynatrace website and download the trial and take it for yourself. So free trial, no credit card, put it on a host, go and see how it works, and see for yourself basically how Dynatrace is running. Is very simple and very easy to use. And
some getting started tutorials or something like that you can point
heaps of tutorials. Yes, part of the trial experience, you'll get all the necessary steps to get started. It's really simple.
Sweet. Well, Dave, I'd love to chat a little more about this. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Anyway, thank you so much for this. Any last words of advice when it comes to, observability and AI?
No, I would just say, yeah, no, I don't. You guys are really good. That's you saved the best question for last. I would
Sorry,
say
I put you on the
go.
spot, Dave.
No, it's a good one. Go and take the trial. A lot of people have worked in the industry for a long period of time. They think, a lot of the AI isn't real and it can't be done. But every time I talk to a customer, they say it absolutely can be done. See it for yourself. Take a plunge and go and give it a go.
Awesome. Well, folks, you heard from Dave, and from Dave and myself, thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of the summit and see you soon.